Hello there and welcome to another segment of Why I Read hosted by Pick a Book Sri Lanka. So I'm a moderator for this specific segment. I'm Sonal Parnavithana, and before we begin the formal the insightful conversations, let me just give a brief introduction as to what Pick a Book is and what it stands for. So Pick a Book Sri Lanka, or Pick a Book, is a global organization proudly born in Sri Lanka, which has dedicated itself to cultivate the love of reading of a different target segments in Sri Lanka, be it a child, be it an undergraduate, be it a corporate personality, whoever it might be. This organization makes you want to read. That's very simply put, that's Pick a Book Sri Lanka. So Pick a Book is not only a local organization, it does span for over 5 countries, which makes a whole lot more readers join together, connect together and network and foster a positive community all across the globe with just one thing in common: reading. Well, today we're having another segment of Why I Read. Why I Read is a platform where we bring in successful and extraordinary individuals who have succeeded in their specific careers, and we talk about how they have been influenced by the habit of reading. So, we do have a very special individual with us today. He is none other than the CEO or the Chief Executive Officer of Barista Coffee Lanka Private Limited. He is none other than Dilupa Pathirana. Welcome to the show, Dilupa. Very nice having you.
Thank you for having me.
Wonderful. So we definitely look forward to what he can bring into the table in terms of reading. So this segment is all about reading, and he will showcase his specific abilities as to what he has gained out of reading and what he can share with all of you who are watching. So as I begin, I would like to remind all of you just to keep an open mind about the conversation that we are about to have. Keep an open mind, and then we'll be able to have an enriching experience throughout the session. So get ready to be inspired. So Dilupa, my first question is, we start reading at a small age. Specifically in a country like Sri Lanka, we are a literal culture, so we have a lot of literate individuals in Sri Lanka. We do have a step-by-step process. We do our scholarship examination to the A-levels, to O-levels, and then to the university sector. So how did you start your reading career? And has that been the reason that you've grown in your career as well?
I was a slow learner. The first 3 years of my school life, I was not able to read and write properly. I think it's a condition. My mother understood that, and he introduced myself to a monk who was literally living next door to us, because we had a temple next door. So that was a young monk. I call him Hamdru, and then he, I think, worked with me for about 2 to 3 years, because he is a student of sociology and psychology in the University of Jawaharlal. And then after that, with that new skill that I gained, I was very excited about it, and then I started reading. I read everything that came my way. I read the newspapers, I read the magazines, I read the books, and my sister is 6 years elder to me, so all the textbooks of hers and everything that comes my way. I remember my mom used to lock all her women magazines and newspapers, because at times I come and ask awkward questions from her when I was like 7-8 years old. But that was how I started, and I was like a chain smoker. I was a chain reader. I read overnight, and I read days and days that time, and I read everything that, as I told you, came my way. But after that, when I got into my academic career in the university, then I had to change the language of reading, because I was already reading all the Sinhala textbooks and all that. And then I had to learn the new language also. Therefore, my reading was mostly based on academic reading. After the university, I did my degree in marketing, then I found all these marketing books really interesting, and then branding books really interesting. So my reading was more directed towards education and career. And after that I got into marketing, then I read all the marketing books, and now to strategic management and strategic marketing. So reading continues, right? That is how I fueled my ability or the curiosity of reading, and that has helped me a lot. I think what the little that I've achieved today is technically I owe it for reading.
So that's fascinating, Dilupa. Everyone starts on their own when it comes to reading, and they develop themselves from the start itself, and they come into a position where they use what's in the book into the real world. So that is going to be my next question. Can you recall a specific book that significantly impacted your style of leadership or business decisions, which made the experience worthwhile and which made the experience memorable?
Yeah, I can recall a book. Actually, there's a nice story to it. In 2018, I was working for Ceylon Hotel Corporation. At that time, I think it's mid 2018, we've got a new CFO to the group. He's a gentleman called Shalika. And one day he called me, Shalika Karunasen, I think. Yeah. One day he called me to his room, and he handed over a book to me. And that book was Onward. It was written by Howard Schultz. It's the director CEO of Starbucks. And that book is about how he transformed Starbucks during the American recession, economic recession, 2007, 2008. And I don't know whether it's fate that I found an advertisement on Top Job. Barista was looking for a general manager. Then I applied for it and I got through. Now that book, after that, became my course manual. I call it SOP, Standard Operation Procedures. I have read that book more than 10 times. I think every now and then I want some insights. I go to that book because he describes how he got this business through this recession and turn around that. And he was talking about transformation agenda for Starbucks. And it was the very situation that when I joined Barista in 2018, the Barista was. So he was discussing about the product strategies, the employee strategies and consumer strategies there, how he reduces the food costs of the outlet and how he brings the standardization into the operations. So it's just like the course manual for me. So up to date. Even last week I was reading that book every time I need some insights, and I have given that book to all my 3R team, that is our executive team. I think that book saved the industry during the COVID period. It saved some people's job and changed, I think, the whole way of Sri Lankan drinking coffee, I would say. And I think that book is the best book that I have read, and that book still the best gift that I've received. So that is the most impactful book that I have come across in my life.
Wonderful. So onward and upward, I would say, Dilupa. Okay, so Dilupa, now when it comes to reading, different people read for different sort of expectations. They try to get different things out of it, if I'm not mistaken. So what is your priority when you read? So be it strategic insights, or be it personal growth, or any other benefit. Why do you read?
Okay, I actually read for strategic insights, to be frank, because I need a lot of them. And I think I'm reading books in terms of brand management, customer service management, supply chain management, and also I have a habit of reading all these business leaders' autobiographies. And I personally believe, especially in my industry, food and beverage industry, we have a lot of room to grow. And most of the developed countries or even Middle East countries, they have excel this game very well. So there are so much of things that we can learn from them. So by reading all these books, I get a chance to upgrade and maybe putting the bar little above in our industry. So always it's reading is for strategic insights, and when I read, I do it with a lot of purpose and intent. When I read a book, I have a small book next to me, a writing book, and then I summarize a chapter there. And if I see something very interesting, I highlighted that page and take a picture and send it to my 3R team, that's our executive team WhatsApp group, and let's do something on this. So it's more purposeful reading, and the whole purpose is to change something. But when you ask about the personal growth, I think when you read for strategic insight, it comes as a package. And I always believe that my personal growth was positively correlated to the time that I spent on reading. Yeah.
Wonderful. It's very nice to hear that you do purposeful reading. Yeah. And some people do it for joy. Some people do it to gain knowledge, just like you. Now, my next question to you would be finding time to balance, to read and to manage a business of this scale can certainly be a challenge. So how do you balance reading business or maybe leadership literature while applying them to real world situations? How do you find the time?
It's finding time is what is important to you. If it is very important, you will find a way. If it is not, you'll find an excuse. So for me, reading is a must. So it's a life-saved discipline that I developed over time. And when I read also, I read a lot of business, as you said, business leadership literature. I think I have a good collection of books also. And I think it's an investment. I think at least 5 to 10% of your income has to be invested there. So I have a collection of business leaders, autobiographies. I have a couple of Steve Jobs. I think every book of Richard Branson written, David Noack, all books. Howard is my godfather. I have every book of him. And then John Pepper to Lee, the Ford founder Lee, it's a difficult name to pronounce, Lee Iacocca. And then Sam Walton's to Phil Knight's Nike. So I have a lot of books because I really believe those are great human beings. They are real, true ambassadors of human civilization, because they have made the world a better place than how they found it. And we are all living the luxuries of their hardship at times, right? So those amount of information, if you don't know and die, it's a waste. So I think your time has to be invested in reading, and especially when you ask how you apply that knowledge and how you find time, it's a different story that I told, but applying is very easy if you find the right books, especially these business leaders' autobiographies. They only not describe you the results, they'll tell you the context of the situation. Most of the time they will talk to you about the situation it was when they took that decision, the micro and macro environment factors. And some of the authors, especially Howard Schultz about Starbucks, and then Richard Branson being very brave and open about his mistakes, and also David Noack, they are very open and bold about the mistakes that they made. So that from that you I learn a lot. Because they describe why this has gone wrong, how it had gone wrong, and how they have recorrected it. So that reading is more insightful and more fruitful for me than just reading success stories or even theory books, for that matter.
It's a very good thing that you brought up the theory books, Dilupa. Now, Sri Lankan students, to be specific, they, what I see in this society is that they tend to be much more book-oriented rather than seeing the practicality, rather than seeing the true aspect of why they're learning it. Yeah. So, have you ever encountered a book where it offered a profound connection between the leadership and personal transformation? So that's always been something that I've thought about, where leadership and personal transformation comes together. What was about it? What was the book that resonated you? Is there a specific book?
There are there are few books, to be honest, but there was one book that I read 1.5 years ago, probably 1 year ago. It was a book written by Simon Sinek, one of the favorites of mine when it's come to contemporary leadership reading. That book is called Find Your Why. Now, in that book, he describes in many of the organizations in the world, the employees who works there, they know what to do and how to do. They know very well, because the companies most of the time invest in educating their employees about their what to do and how to do. If you take from the interview to the code of conduct, code of ethics, to lengthy inductions, and then on the job, off the job training, foreign training, they invest a lot to teach them what to do and how to do. And then he asks the leaders, do they know why they do it? So that why question, finding your why. And he asks what the company has done to make these employees know why they're doing this. They're talking about the purpose of the job. And he asks the leaders, have you made your people feel like they are a part of a big picture, or they're part of something bigger than their lives? Which really, an eye-opener for me when I was also, managing this business, to get people to know why you work. And he also says, if you are a leader, you should be crystal clear about your vision. And if you're a leader, your employees who are working for you has to be crystal clear about your vision. The first thing is he's asking whether are you crystal clear about your vision. The second question is asking whether your employees are crystal clear about vision. If you don't have crystal clear vision, you're not going to go there. And if your employees don't have it, then still you're not going to go there. So that was something, a real eye-opener for me. That after that, I personally did some changes to the approach, that I wanted all the people who are working in the front counter to back counter to the kitchen to the finance to the HR to supply chain and barista to know why they work, the purpose of the work, and then for them to feel like they are part of a big picture. And if they are missing in that picture, the whole picture is meaningless. So that is something that I learned from that book. That's a great book.
Wonderful insights coming out from Dilupa himself. So this is a question which is coming from me. Now, I have read about Netflix and how they have started their own company and how they've grown over the years. So one thing that they emphasize is Netflix has this culture where a lot of the companies these days, they promote a culture where they think that they are a family. But Netflix in general, what they want to promote among the employees of Netflix is that they are not a family, but a dream team.
Yeah.
So the difference between those two, I just want you to give your POV or the point of view on your front. What do you think about this? Because this is in their culture deck, which is up for grabs. You can read it online. Employees being not a family, but a dream team, where families don't let you go in times of crisis, and dream teams do. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, when I joined Barista, there was this whole concept about the family. Then I really thought about it, and I also used to use that term because it was very close to heart. But during the COVID times, during the tough times, the recession times, I really questioned whether the family is given, but as a business leader, I can choose my team. You can't choose your family. And if he's not performing, we let them go. But in your family, it doesn't happen that way. So I really understood it's a high-performing team that does work better. So that is, after that, we were talking to our team members as a barista. Let's say we are an effective and very, very efficient team rather than a family. And then we can bring all the good aspects of family also, like caring, looking after, the confident, and all that into that team. But what is different between a family and a team is you're stuck with it at times. but your team that you can alter, and then you can make everybody contributing to the end goal, and a team with a purpose and team with a vision.
I think that's a phenomenal answer, a well-rounded answer. So it's not always about being a family at office, but it's about being very high performance, highly driven team, and that's what happens when you read. So how do books influence your leadership approach, Dilupa? Now, you do manage all the operations, all the general operations of Barrister. So how does that integrate with your reading?
Yeah, I think I always promote reading inside my organization. So that is how it really connects to the teamwork. I'm being the resource person, I'm being the moderator, I'm being the conductor of getting them to read, because I have books at home, and also we have a habit of investing in buying books. That most of the new books in coming and releasing in the world is not available in Sri Lanka, but we have found, our finance team has found a couple of guys who can bring all the books down. So everybody who finds the new books, he goes to finance and says, we want this book down. Yeah. And then within 2 to 3 weeks time, the book is on the table. So we have that culture of promoting reading, and I'm blessed with my 3R team, which is the executive team. There are a couple of guys who really love reading, but the other thing that they have realized, you can't be in that team if you are not loving reading. Most of the time when I read a book, when I connect that book with somebody in my team, I call them upon and I say, here's a book, you have to read it, and depending on the size of the book and the complexity of the book, I give the timeline. So 2 months, 3 months, come back to me with 5 things that you want to change in Barista. So likewise it happens, it's kind of a small dictatorship coming in, but still. About 6 months ago, I gave my head of operation Krishan a book called Customer Mania, written by Ken Blanchard. Yeah. So then after 5 months, about December, he had implemented 5 things. Those are very effective things. And I recently give a book called Brand Sense to my head of brands. It was written by Martin Lindstone. It's a very nice book, and I read it, I loved it, and I gave it to her, and I said, think about what we can change. So 2 days before, like last Friday, she came and said, we can think about how we can convert Barista brand into a sensory brand. Things like that. So we read a lot, and I tell my team all the time this: Barista's most important competitive advantage should be we are a learning organization, because all the other competitive advantages that people say we have, the product supremacy, customer intimacy, the technology that we use, can be duplicated and replicated in no times. But if you are a learning organization, if you learn as a group, and if you are purposefully learning, that type of a competitive advantage is very difficult to duplicate, because we are always 3-4 steps ahead of the competition. So that's the whole concept and philosophy of our teamwork. So everybody has to learn, everybody has to grow. You can't leave somebody out from the team.
So that's very good to hear, Dilupa, having a culture where everyone reads and everyone is well read, so that it's not just a job that they're doing, they're learning while doing it, and ultimately, collectively, improving the companies in whatever way. It may be it may be sales, it may be in other aspects, improving altogether. That's wonderful to hear. So I'm about to ask you a top 3 question. Now, what would be the top 3 books that you would suggest to an up-and-coming person? It may be an undergrad, it may be even a school student, or even a person who is in a corporate or who is working at the moment. What 3 books would you suggest, your top 3?
It's a very tough question to answer. If somebody is really interested of improving his career and business and academics, anything, he has to read at least 300 books. So, but now since this is a question, this is completely personal opinion, and with the little books that I've read, I would categorize into 3 sections. For business, I'll go for Jim Collins, but I can't give a one book. I think you have to read all three books: Good to Great, Built to Last, and Great by Choice. All three. And then about leadership, I prefer Simon Sinek. He has written a nice book called Leaders Eat Last. And also about leadership, David Noack, Taking the People with You, and Pouring Your Heart into It, also by Howard. So those are three very nice books on leadership. And then about personal development, let's go with the safe option, Stephen Covey.
Yeah.
You have 7 Habits of People, 7 Habits of Effective People, and also read the Living the 7 Habits. So that gives you how you really do it. So there are 2 books. They are good, goes together. So those are safe options, but there are interesting, like so many books. And I always say read more than 3 books.
Yes. So, yes, the question was phrased, Dilupa, top 3 books.
Okay.
So, obviously, there will be other books. So, he did mention a lot of books which you can discover. Maybe you're hearing it for the first time, but you can search and get yourself a copy and make sure that you get the point and the advice that the book can give you. So another question, Dilupa, to you would be any advice for a person who is just starting reading? So reading isn't a habit that you start overnight. It's something that you build over time and with patience, of course. Sometimes even myself, I don't have I wouldn't call it the concentration, but I don't have the temperament to wait around and see what happens. So how do you build that habit? What sort of advice would you give for a person who is just starting their career?
Okay, my honest advice is to don't consider reading as a good habit. I think it has to be a life-saving discipline. Just like you brush your teeth, you have to read. This is what I personally believe.
Yeah.
So it's not a nice to have thing, it's a must have thing. Reading does so many goods, like loads of goods to you. So it got to be a life saving discipline, as I said, and for that you need to find time. Like, you will anyway find time for brushing your teeth.
Yeah.
It's the same way that you need to find time. Like, if you take me, it's a very busy day, a very busy week, very busy month during the last, couple of years. But I always make sure that soon after I wake up, I read 1 hour, because that time is the least disturbed hour. And after that, if I find time, that's a bonus, but at least the must is done. And if you have time and a place to read, half of the battle is won. And thereafter, deliberately, you need to get into this habit. And as I told you, if you are looking for, personal development and, career development, then go for this purposeful reading, where you get a book in your hand with the clear purpose of, I'm going to learn new things and I'm going to change all things. That has to be a purpose when you're reading a book. I think that's the advice, the advice is it's a must.
Wonderful words from a wonderful man. And one more thing, Dilupa, now we are in a time where digital technology has come to the front and it has taken the whole world. So some might argue that books are a little bit outdated, or books can be replaced by something, a sort of ebooks, or maybe even other platforms. What are your thoughts on it? Do you prefer literal physical books over ebooks, or other ways of reading, or audiobooks even we have?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty old school. I like the feeling of the book in hand, and when I feel like it's done halfway, I've done 100 pages out of 265, so I can measure it and I feel it. But the good thing about physical books is you can consume it. You can highlight it, you can keep it, you can roll it, you can kept it somewhere and bring it back. So I find it very easy to use a physical book, but I don't see any difference or any problem in reading digital, because my son reads digital. The most important thing is the purpose of reading. the purposeful reading, why you want to read anything. You can read any material, any media, that's all right. But are you going to really put something inside you and change something inside you? That is important. So I am not commenting on the medium or the format of reading, but I'm only commenting on the habit of reading.
Wonderful. Okay. That's good advice, and it's all about you purposefully reading whatever you read and taking into consideration what sort of benefits that you can gain out of it. So one more thing before we finish our segment for today, Dilupa. You have a very strong sense or a favoritism towards reading, and it's not just reading, it's purposeful reading. So you definitely should have a strong belief on why you read. So can I know that why you read exactly, and what makes you want to read every single day, specifically when you're in a leadership role like the CEO of Barrister?
Okay, the whole purpose of me reading is to make myself a resourceful person, make myself a more interesting person. I've been given like 10 minutes times to talk to people, and we've ended up talking hours and hours, and then I've given little time to talk to people, and then we ended up being lifelong friends. So I definitely know that the reading makes me more resourceful and interesting person, and also an updated person about the business, because it's if you are a leader in the organization, you have to take decisions, and those decisions has to be informed decisions, because that decision is not only changing you, it's going to change the people that you work with, and maybe the organizations, maybe the country at large. So it always has to be informed decisions. But more than anything, the best thing that I liked about reading is that it makes me humble. It makes me grounded to understand how little that I know. Every time I read, I find new things. So it just gives me a feeling that am I going to die without knowing all this kind of feeling. And it gives me a purpose. It gives me a purpose to learn more, find more, explore more, and give it back to my team, my company, my society at large, and even the country, or even the world at a larger scale. So it really gives a purpose. It really keeps you grounded, and just to understand how great things that people have done in the world, and how much room that you have to make this world and your community and surroundings better. So I think, if, as you said, I think it's a blessing to be liking or to develop a habit of reading. Yeah.
A very profound sentiment, and a very important one at that. So once again, a huge and a massive thank you goes out to you, Dilupa, for joining with us today and sharing the most deepest of secrets of why you read and what you want the people who are watching today's segment to do as they move on in their career ladder, or whatever endeavor that they are engaging in. So thank you very much, Dilupa, once again for joining with us, joining with Pick a Book. And you want any final remarks?
Well, talking about reading, I think reading is a human thing.
Yes.
No other species in the world is reading and learning. So all I say is, if you don't read, you're not doing the justification, So yeah, you should read.
Reading is a serious thing. Do not take it lightly, and if you have watched this far, you are definitely interested in reading. So thank you very much for joining with us today as well. That sums up this segment of Why I Read, hosted by Pick a Book Sri Lanka. Thank you very much once again. Have yourselves a pleasant rest of the day.